The story started with Cairo, a teen left all alone in her parents' huge house out in the Tennessee countryside. Her mom and dad were fancy lawyers, always jetting off, leaving Cairo. Every morning, Cairo would lace up her favorite knee-high boots, some miniskirt, and strut through the woods to school. Soon as she hit the classroom, there was Mr. Jonathan Miller, Cairo's teacher, and the only adult who really got her. Jonathan was this sad, middle-aged guy who'd once dreamed of being a famous author. Life had not quite worked out that way for him. One morning, Jonathan complimented her early meeting and told her to start reading up on the books for the semester. The two were chatting about books until Cairo's classmate Winnie, who was repeating the grade, walked up. Winnie took Cairo to the cafeteria, leaving Jonathan by himself to scout at the volumes piled on Cairo's desk. When Jonathan's friend Boris appeared, he stirred the book he was reading out of his hands and began reading aloud a suggestive paragraph. Jonathan tried shushing him before he got to the naughty parts, but Boris just kept on being a wiseacre. That's when Boris spotted one of Jonathan's own published. When Jonathan got home later, his wife Beatrice was sitting at her computer, all absorbed in her work as usual. He tried making small talk, but she was too wrapped up to really engage. So Jonathan tried to get Beatrice's attention soon after, to share his excitement over one of his students taking an interest in his writing. Beatrice's co-worker Amy urgently rang her up after the call. Jonathan got a little flirty with his wife and shared a couple drinks together. Things started heating up between them, about to get intimate, but then Amy's call interrupted them yet again, leaving Jonathan unfulfilled and on edge. The next day, Jonathan vented to Boris about his disappointing weekend, how Amy's distributed killed the mood with Beatrice. Then, while they were shooting the breeze, they noticed Cairo emerging from the nearby woods. Jonathan, still tense from the day before, but Cairo didn't pick up on the weird vibe at all. Winnie wasn't just tripping over her belongings in the locker room, as Boris noticed when he strolled over and asked, "What do you need?" Winnie knew that Boris was only attempting to gain his attention. Cairo informed Winnie that she was being quite bold. Winnie attempted to provide Cairo with essay ideas, but Cairo assumed them were dull. Suddenly, Winnie proposed that Cairo try flirting with professors to get ideas for writing. Although Cairo was initially hesitant, Winnie's playful prodding made her curious, but Winnie reassured her that everything would be okay. She said that Jonathan seemed like a nice, gentle guy, making him a good prospect for Cairo's first time. Cairo couldn't stop thinking about it, and she wanted to experience it in class. One day, he approached her quietly from behind and whispered that she should meet him in his office. After the bell rang, he was chatting with Boris and invited him over for dinner. Boris accepted. He tried showing off some of Jonathan's dance moves while joking around with Cairo. After Boris left, they shared some laughs and then spoke about Winnie. Jonathan asked about Cairo's living situation and expressed his approval of their tight bond. Teacher commended Cairo for her recent excellent writing. He was impressed by her ability to recite specific phrases. Realizing her talent, he challenged her to write a short story in the style of her favorite author. If she did well, she would pass the semester. Cairo rapidly agreed. However, she surprised him by telling him she had read his published book. Jonathan was thrilled and admitted that the book was his first published work, making it even more special. Miller acknowledges that he hasn't written anything new in a while, explaining that his life has been fairly ordinary since getting married, with nothing inspiring him for a book. Cairo challenges him to pick up his pen again, and he accepts, inviting her to meet up that weekend to discuss her short story idea further. Jonathan surprises Cairo by sneaking up behind her. There's this poet named Elliot performing, and Cairo keeps stealing glances at Jonathan while he's listening so intently. Later, they critique Elliot's poetry, exchanging ideas and opinions on it. On a new school day, Cairo decides to change up her appearance. She delivers coffee for Boris and Miller, and they all seem much more confident now that they are just joking around and having a cigarette. Winnie is informed by Cairo that despite the professor's silence regarding her new appearance, she could tell she was interested in her later on. After thinking it over, Cairo decides it would just make her story much more interesting. Miller is a little concerned and decides to trust Cairo, allowing her to move forward with the plan. Cairo tells Miller she wants to write her story like Henry Miller, the well-known author who wrote a lot about love and sex. Jonathan's phone buzzes. It's a text from his wife inviting him to a weekend getaway. Cairo approaches to discuss her short story, but he's too busy thinking about her wife to give it much thought, so he just approves. Later, when they're alone, Winnie begins to tease Cairo, joking that she's trying to seduce their professor. she starts acting out Cairo's actions, cracking her friend up. Meanwhile, Jonathan is constantly getting interrupted by Amy's persistent calls regarding their postponed weekend trip. Amazingly, it's Cairo's voice when Jonathan's phone rings. She accidentally put her phone in Jonathan's bag. Jonathan volunteers to return Cairo's phone to her house despite of heavy rain. When Jonathan sees Cairo walking outside in this gorgeous, seductive dress in the pouring rain, they lock eyes and share this intense, heated moment. After their intense moments, Jonathan can't get Cairo out of his mind. Jonathan's wife, preoccupied with something else, yells at him to wake up and leave me alone. Distracted, Jonathan leaves for a small house nearby. He prints out Cairo's completed work and begins reading it. It's a very interesting story with mature themes, and he becomes excited, picturing Cairo in those scenes and stoking his desires. The following day, Cairo arrives at class wearing an alluring ensemble, but Jonathan's entire demeanor has changed. He doesn't greet her with the same warmth as before. Jonathan laments the explicit content of her writing, explaining that although her storytelling is engaging, the graphic nature of her themes goes beyond what is appropriate for a school assignment. As a result, he finds it difficult to grade it and is concerned about the message it may convey to other students. After this heated exchange, Cairo tries to calm down by saying that she didn't include any of that, but he's not having it. He flatly refuses to listen to her and decides to reject both her work and whatever is going on. When Cairo tried to express her true feelings, his refusal to acknowledge them made her angrier. She snapped at him, calling his work dull and average. Her frustration grows, and she challenges him to fail. Cairo becomes extremely enraged and begins insulting Jonathan hardcore, but he insists that they are just teachers and students. She fires back saying he's just jealous and can't accomplish what she did. Cairo leaves abruptly, leaving her narrative in a mailbox belonging to an administrator. As the night wears on and they start to feel it, Miller is at home telling his wife about Cairo's story, which delves into a forbidden romantic entanglement between a teacher and student. Meanwhile, Cairo drowns her rejection from Miller with drinks with her friend Winnie. They joke that they should take some pictures to tease Boris and add some fun to their girls' night, but suddenly, when Jonathan answers the phone from the principal's office, Beatrice accuses him of having an improper relationship with Cairo. Jonathan tells Beatrice that everything is not true, but she warns him that if the accusations are confirmed, he might lose his job. The following day, when Cairo's is not in class because she is meeting with the principal, Jonathan continues to teach Winnie, who appears to be very disturbed by Cairo's absence. The teacher is called in for a meeting with the school administration, where Professor Miller and Cairo are interrogated extensively about their interactions in class and whether or not they had any close encounters outside of it. Cairo's answers strongly suggest that there was a connection between them, which puts the professor in a difficult situation regarding his reputation and professional future. After giving that message, Boris meets him after work, expressing his dismay and cautioning Jonathan to know when to stop pushing things too far. When Jonathan arrives home, he informed Beatrice about the suspension. She asked right away whether anything happened. He initially denies it, only acknowledging that he gave Cairo special treatment. He hesitates, but when she persists, he eventually admits that he does have feelings for Cairo. As a result, they end up yelling abusive things at one another. Enraged, Beatrice storms out, declaring she wants a divorce in the interim. Winnie warns Cairo that her actions could lose Jonathan his job, but Cairo brushes it off, viewing it as her greatest accomplishment and even mentioning it in her college essay. Cairo tells Winnie that this was retaliation because Jonathan never showed her any respect. The film finishes after Cairo's article concludes, vividly illustrating the impending consequences of Jonathan's involvement with her.